All right, for our next video example, we're going to be talking about two different examples where the number that you are dividing by, so you have your dividend and you have your divisor. So the number that you're dividing by, your divisor, is larger than your dividend. So in our previous examples, we've talked about how many times does a fraction go into another fraction, or how many times does 1/3 go into 2/7. But sometimes that's hard to comprehend because if your divisor is larger than, it's hard to imagine inside of our heads, which is why a visual is always really helpful for me. So we're going to do the first example together. So it says 2/7 divided by 1/3, which does technically mean how many times can you fit 1/3 into 2/7. So if we want to draw this out, I know that I'm going to draw this out based off of my denominators. So I have a denominator of 7 and I have a denominator of 3. So I'm going to make rectangles that are 7 by 3 boxes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll use that for my 2/7. And then I'll use the exact same model for my 1/3. All right, and let's get some different colors. All right, so if I want to be representing my 2/7, I know that I can color in 2 columns. And I know that I can color in 2 columns because I have 7 columns in total. So if I color in 2 of them, that would represent my 2/7. If I want to then use my second rectangle to represent 1/3, I know that I have 3 different rows. So I can just color in 1 of them, and then it'll be my 1/3. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky. So if I'm trying to represent how many times 1/3 goes into 2/7, currently I know before going into this, as well as in my visual, that 1/3 is in fact larger than 2/7. And I can see that because I've shaded in physically, there are more green squares than pink squares. There are 6 pink squares and there are 7 green squares. So whenever you're taking a fraction divided by another fraction, so in this case, your 2/7 divided by 1/3, and I know that my divisor is larger, this really neat trick is your quotient is actually your visual. It is literally just bringing over how many boxes you've colored in. So I know 2/7 divided by 1/3 is equal to 6/7. And I can prove this in the same method. If I take my 2/7 and I multiply by 1/3's reciprocal, which is 3/1, I know 2 times 3 is 6, 7 times 1 is 7. My visual matches up with multiplying by my reciprocal. I know my visual works. Okay? And this only works if your divisor is larger than your dividend. Let's do another example together. So my second example says 1/5 divided by 8/9. And I know 8/9, that's almost a whole. A whole would be 9/9, correct? So I know 8/9 is significantly larger than 1/5. And if I want to represent this as a visual, I'm going to go ahead and use my denominator. So my denominator is 5, and my other denominator is 9. So I want to make a rectangle that is 5 by 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll make 2 of those, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so let's go ahead and color in my first fraction. My first fraction is 1/5. If I have 5 different rows, I can color in one of them. So I color in one row to represent my 1/5. And then for my 8/9, conveniently, I have 9 different columns. I'm going to go ahead and color in 8 of them. Can make this a little bit larger. There we go. So color in 8 of them. And I have one column that is left out because I don't have 9/9, I have 8/9. So if I was to go through and count how many boxes I have filled in each of my diagrams, I have in my first diagram, my 1/5, I have 9 different boxes that are colored in. And in my second diagram, my 8/9, I have 40 different boxes that have been colored in. So if you go through and actually count, when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each of your boxes, I have 40 in total. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And all the way down, I have 9 in total. So just like my previous problem, 1/5 divided by 8/9, you got your numerator and you got your denominator. I know my quotient is 9/40. And I can prove that by multiplying by my reciprocal. If I take 1/5 and multiply by 9/8, I get 9/40. So my visual works. And that would be how you show a visual of a fraction divided by another fraction, specifically when your divisor is larger than your dividend.